Hi, everyone. You think you know the story of the Wright brothers? Think again. While the U.S. government wasted a fortune on a massive failed flying machine, two self-funded bicycle mechanics secretly unlocked the invisible language of air with a breakthrough inspired by a simple, twisted cardboard box. Their famous 12-second hop at Kitty Hawk was not luck. It was the invention of the three-axis control system, the exact code that guides every plane in the sky today. Hit that subscribe button, let me know what you think of their ingenious design in the comments, and smash the like button to support more history deep dives. The invisible language of air. How two bicycle mechanics invented the control code of aviation. The weight of gravity. A century of failed ambition. The fatal focus on power. The latter half of the 19th century was defined by a collective technological restlessness, a period where the age-old myth of flying ceased to be folklore and became an engineering objective. Inspired by the legends of Icarus and the burgeoning power of the Industrial Revolution, countless ambitious individuals pursued the conquest of the skies with machinery. Yet, the road to aviation was littered with crashes and disappointment. A foundational, yet flawed figure in this movement was Otto Lilienthal. The German glider pioneer meticulously documented his thousands of glides, generating data that became the widely accepted, though ultimately unreliable, starting point for serious aeronautical experimentation. Lilienthal's fatal gliding accident in 1896 served as a grim testament to the fact that while humanity could achieve brief periods of airborne movement, true mastery of the air remained elusive. The vast majority of contemporary innovators focused their entire effort on increasing two metrics, generating enough wing lift and securing sufficient engine power. They tragically overlooked the most profound obstacle, the necessity of dynamic control. An aircraft that could not be deliberately steered, stabilized, and maneuvered was a death trap, not a transportation breakthrough. The ability to execute sustained, predictable movement, the true freedom of the air, was the secret that had yet to be decoded. The quiet laboratory of Dayton. The individuals who would ultimately solve this intricate problem, Orville and Wilbur Wright, were not products of prestigious military academies or wealthy research endowments, but the proprietors of a functional, profitable bicycle, manufacturing and repair business in Dayton, Ohio. This prosaic origin story holds the key to their eventual triumph. The profits generated from the sale and creation of bicycles served as the sole invaluable source of funding for their complex and demanding aeronautical pursuits. This essential financial self-reliance proved to be a strategic advantage, insulating them from the impatient scrutiny, rushed deadlines, and political interference that doomed many high-profile projects. Their philosophy, reflected in a quote often attributed to them, was a methodical belief in incremental accumulation. Men become wise just as they become rich, more by what they save than by what they receive. The bicycle shop was far more than a source of capital. It was the crucible of their invention. It was within this pragmatic workspace that they fabricated their experimental gliders, designed their bespoke engine, and, most crucially, constructed the precise revolutionary tools required to empirically test and dismantle existing aeronautical dogma. The triumph of empirical skepticism. A pivotal moment in the Wrights' intellectual journey was their bold rejection of established scientific authority. Their early glider trials consistently contradicted the performance predicted by the prevailing aerodynamic tables, particularly those compiled from Lilienthal's meticulous but flawed work. Instead of assuming their own construction was inadequate, the brothers possessed the intellectual courage to challenge the underlying foundational data itself. This skepticism became the propellant of their success. To resolve this contradiction, the Wrights abandoned simple field experiments and built a sophisticated miniature wind tunnel. They supplemented this with a unique, bicycle-based force-balancing mechanism to measure lift and drag. Through meticulous and sustained testing of model wings, they made a stunning discovery. The authoritative tables of Lilienthal were profoundly inaccurate, understating the required angle of attack to produce sufficient lift by a factor of more than 3. This fundamental revision, based entirely on their own rigorous, accurate data, transformed their efforts from simple trial-and-error iteration into precision engineering design. Their success was secured not by chance, but by unwavering scientific discipline and the audacity to distrust global academic consensus when their data contradicted it. The $51,000 failure, Langley's folly. The calculated, quiet methodology of the Wrights stands in stark, unforgiving contrast to the parallel efforts of Samuel Pierpont Langley. As the esteemed secretary of the Smithsonian Institution and a celebrated astronomer, Langley's project, the Aerodrome, was a high-profile, federally funded initiative backed by a colossal $51,000 congressional grant. Langley successfully engineered and built a high-power, custom 53-horsepower gasoline engine, weighing a mere 125 pounds. Yet the aerodrome was crippled by a fatal conceptual error. Langley remained fixated on generating overwhelming power, to the exclusion of addressing active pilot control. His design was inherently unstable and lacked any effective system for stabilization or maneuverability. Had the aerodrome achieved stable flight, the pilot, Charles M. Manley, would have faced considerable danger during the inevitable, uncontrolled descent. In a devastating twist of history, Langley's 2 full-scale attempts ended in spectacular failure. Both on October 7th and December 8th, 1903, the aerodrome snagged on its catapult and violently collapsed into the Potomac River. 9 days later, utterly crushed by the failure and the resulting public scorn, Langley's dream was definitively extinguished. This sequence of events provided a clear lesson to the world. Technological supremacy in the air demands mastery of function control over brute expenditure funding. The core breakthrough, decoding three-dimensional movement, the revelation of the cardboard box. The Wright brothers' enduring legacy is not rooted in the mechanical details of their 1903 flyer, but in the invention of a systematic, integrated 3-axis control system. This system finally granted the pilot the ability to maintain equilibrium and effectively steer the aircraft in 3 dimensions, resolving the issues of pitching, vertical nose movement, rolling, side-to-side tilt, and yawing, directional rotation. This intellectual leap remains the foundational physics upon which all modern flight is based. The conceptual genesis of this solution arrived when Wilbur observed the structural deformation caused by twisting a long cardboard box, leading him to the revolutionary concept of wing warping. This mechanism became their patented solution for lateral roll control. By manipulating a network of pulleys and cables, the pilot could subtly twist the trailing edges of the wings in opposing directions, thereby increasing the angle of incidence lift on one side and decreasing it on the other, inducing a controlled turn or correcting for an unwanted gust. This cohesive 3-axis system provided the precision necessary to actively fly the machine, transforming it from an unstable, powered glider into a truly manageable aircraft. The comparison below starkly illustrates the difference between the Wrights' functional design and the costly impotence of the government-backed effort. The Destiny of 12 Seconds. Kitty Hawk, 1903. The Windswept Crucible. The Wrights selected the desolate, windswept dunes of Kill Devil Hills near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, based on extensive research of national weather patterns, which promised consistent, powerful headwinds and the relative safety of a sandy landing surface. The finished machine, the Flyer Y, represented the sum of their rigorous empirical work. It possessed a broad 40.5-foot, 12.3-meter wingspan, measured 21 feet, 6.4 meters in length, and weighed approximately 605 pounds, 274 kilograms, without the pilot. It was powered by their meticulously handcrafted 12-horsepower gasoline engine. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and smash the like button to support our history deep dives. December 17th, 1903, the moment of lift. The critical day arrived on a frigid, blustery Thursday morning. At 10:35 a.m., Orville Wright took his position, lying prone on the lower wing. The aircraft was launched from a rail track and, utilizing engine power alone, lifted into a 21-mile-per-hour headwind. The world's first successful sustained and controlled flight of a heavier-than-air powered aircraft lasted precisely 12 seconds. It traversed a distance of 120 feet, 37 meters. The photographic evidence of this historic moment was not captured by a professional, but by John T. Daniels, an employee of the nearby Kill Devil life-saving station, one of the 5 witnesses. Daniels, having been instructed by Orville on how to operate the camera, secured the single most famous photograph in the history of transportation. The 4 other witnesses, W.S. Doe, A.D. Etheridge, W.C. Brinkley, and Johnny Moore, stood as the first astonished guardians of the age of aviation, the aftermath, and the public's skepticism. The brothers conducted 4 flights that day, successfully alternating as pilots. The final, most successful flight, steered by Wilbur, spanned 59 seconds and covered an impressive 852 feet, 260 meters. However, the Flyaway's destiny was sealed shortly thereafter. After the 4th successful landing, a sudden, powerful gust of wind violently flipped the machine. John T. Daniels, who attempted a futile intervention, gave a vivid account of the structural collapse. "I found myself caught in them wires and the machine blowing across the beach heading for the ocean. I tell you, I was plumb scared. When the thing did stop for half a second, I nearly broke up every wire and upright getting out of it." The pioneering aircraft was irreparably destroyed. Immediately following the flights, Orville transmitted a telegram to their father, Milton Wright. The historic message confirmed their success, noting the 21-mile-per-hour wind and the longest time as 57 seconds. A slight transmission error, the true duration was 59 seconds. Despite this official communication, the broader press largely disregarded the news. The widely reported failures of high-profile, expensive projects like Langley's had cultivated such deep public cynicism that the claim of 2 self-taught mechanics achieving sustained flight was deemed too improbable to warrant serious reporting. The world had missed its own revolutionary dawn, the fierce defense of intellectual property, the seclusion of genius. Recognizing the revolutionary commercial value embedded in their unique control system and faced with profound public disbelief, the Wrights adopted a strategy of extreme secrecy after 1903. They intentionally limited public flights until 1908, utilizing this period to refine their engineering and secure their intellectual property. This methodical refinement yielded the Wright Flyer 3 in 1905, often considered the first truly practical fixed-wing aircraft, capable of executing sophisticated maneuvers, including the first sustained aerial circles. After their eventual triumphant public demonstrations in Europe and America in 1908 and 1909, they finally shuttered the bicycle shop, transitioning fully to the Wright Company to manufacture planes and establish pilot training. The patent wars and Glenn Curtis. Success brought the inevitability of complex legal battles, primarily focused on defending patent 821,393. Which specifically protected their method of 3-axis manipulation. Their principal rival was Glenn Curtis, whose aircraft utilized ailerons, separate hinged control surfaces, for lateral stability rather than the Wrights' original wing warping mechanism. The resulting patent litigation became famously bitter and protracted. The Wrights successfully argued that their patent covered the function of lateral control, which was enabled by the twisting of the wings, even if Curtis employed a different mechanism, ailerons, to achieve the same result. This legal victory affirmed that the Wrights' true ownership lay in the concept of three-axis flight mastery. However, the continuous costly litigation severely hampered the growth of the nascent American aviation industry. The impending necessity of robust air power during the escalation toward World War I ultimately compelled the U.S. government to intervene. It orchestrated the creation of a patent pool, which mandated that all manufacturers, including Curtiss, pay a shared blanket fee for the use of essential aviation patents, thereby ensuring that intellectual property disputes would not compromise national defense. The exile and return of the flyer. The most dramatic manifestation of the Wrights' commitment to historical truth was Orville's bitter, decades-long feud with the Smithsonian Institution. For years, the Smithsonian stubbornly insisted that Samuel Langley's failed, government-funded aerodrome was the first machine capable of sustained piloted flight. In a profound and stinging act of protest against what he perceived as the Smithsonian's deliberate attempt to rewrite history in favor of its own failed secretary, Orville sent the original, revolutionary 1903 Flyer Y overseas. In 1928, the aircraft was sent to the Science Museum in London. Orville justified this extraordinary decision, stating the foreign display would serve as a constant reminder of the reasons for its being there, publicly rebuking the Smithsonian for its false and misleading statements. The original aircraft finally returned to the United States in 1948, only after the Smithsonian formally and unconditionally admitted that the Wrights' 1903 flight held unequivocal primacy in the history of powered, controlled aviation. The perpetual command, legacy of the three axes, the military imperative. The potential for aerial reconnaissance was immediately apparent to the Wrights, who saw the aircraft as a logical evolution of existing intelligence-gathering tools like observation balloons. Though initial discussions with the U.S. government proceeded slowly, by 1907, the Army Signal Corps recognized the necessity and advertised bids for a working military aircraft. The performance specifications were crafted so precisely that only the Wrights could realistically meet them. They delivered the first military aircraft in 1909. This essential development was not without its cost. During the 1908 Army trials, a catastrophic propeller malfunction led to a crash that severely injured Orville and killed Army observer Lieutenant Thomas E. Selfridge, marking the first military fatality in the history of aviation. Despite this heavy price, military adoption accelerated rapidly, ensuring that by the outbreak of World War I in 1914, the airplane had permanently transitioned from a curious novelty to an indispensable weapon of strategic combat. The Universal Code of Aerodynamics. The most enduring and widespread legacy of Kitty Hawk is not the specific lumber and wire of the Flyer Y, but the invisible fundamental code of control the brothers established. The core principle that governs the movement of every flying machine, from a remote-controlled drone to a commercial airliner, is the Wrights' integrated three-axis system. Their true achievement was not merely constructing a machine capable of a brief hop. It was the definition of the foundational physical and mechanical principles necessary to master sustained movement in the air. Conclusion. The triumph of method. The narrative of the Wright brothers stands as an exceptional validation of scientific self-reliance, intellectual integrity, and the power of methodical inquiry. They proved definitively that epical innovation is not achieved by applying the greatest financial resources or securing the largest government contracts. Instead, it is born from the deepest, most accurate empirical understanding of the specific physical problem at hand. They refused to accept the flawed conventional wisdom of their age, and in doing so, constructed a new foundation for the future. The final definitive victory for the Wrights was not the 12-second flight itself, but the moment their three-axis control system, the invisible language of roll, pitch, and yaw, became the permanent universal code for flight across the entire globe. They proved that true command of the air is not achieved by massive engines or government grants, but by profound mastery of physics, elevating methodical genius above colossal high-budget failure. As Orville reflected, the airplane, like the discovery of fire, is a force of immense power that shapes humanity for better and for worse. The Wright story remains the ultimate testament to how quiet, rigorous persistence can revolutionize the world. Hit that subscribe button, let me know what you think of their ingenious design in the comments, and smash the like button to support more history deep dives.